Hey, there we go. Welcome back to the live stream. My name is Jeff Fritz. I'm here at my home here in the East Coast, back in Philly, and this is going to be a very special show this evening, very special stream. I'm so excited. Look at all the folks in the chat room already because we're having a code party. We've got a bunch of great folks that are going to be joining us from San Francisco at DockerCon 2019 at the Women in Technology event. In fact, let's see if we can go across the big satellite now, see if we can find them. Hello? Hello, is there anybody over there? Hey, there we go. There's DockerCon over there. Hey, there's our friend Sarah Fatz. I see Dee Dee Walsh in the background, and we have a guest today.
Yes, we do. We have Kirotika from Foundation Medicine.
Okay.
And she's flown in from Boston for this event. And not only is she a woman in technology, but she also has another special hidden talent that I think you also would be very interested in talking to her about.
Okay. So, gosh, Kirotika, thanks so much for joining us. This is great. You know, we like to talk to all kinds of folks that are involved in technology, learn about the different cool things that they're doing to grow their careers and to make an impact and make society better. And the network went, there it is, now it's back. The satellite went out for a second. But we like to talk to folks about the different things that they've grown and done. But if you're doing something outside technology, what kind of cool things are you doing outside of coding and containers?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you, everybody.
Absolutely.
It's definitely an honor to be here, and I'm happy to represent the women in technology at DockerCon. And it's been one of the coolest events, I would say, in technology world. So aside of being in technology for about, say, 15 years, I also play professional level cricket. That's a passion.
Whoa.
That's a passion. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the passion, and being in technology keeps the brain active and me sane and everybody else sane in my family.
All right, hang on. Professional level cricket. That's pretty tough. That's some pretty amazing stuff. Now, when is the cricket season here in this? There goes the network. This is going to be fun. So when is the cricket season here in the States?
Great question. Being in the New England area, we would like to say the season is between April through October. Yeah, primarily the tournaments happen between like May through October.
So you get into that late spring time. It's got to be great in the summer in the Boston area, in New England. Playing cricket outside, my gosh, the weather's got to be terrific for long. Sure. Cricket matches are long, aren't they?
Not anymore. We moved to the cooler part, like 20-over matches.
Okay.
Not anymore 5 days.
Compared to a baseball game or American football, my gosh, we're talking 2-3 hours. Days. Are you kidding? See, that's how unfamiliar I am with cricket. And I'm seeing some folks here in the chat room waving, saying hello. Thanks so much for joining us there, chat room. Insomnia is forcing people to watch us here. Come on now. That's not fair. Caffeine is absolutely a thing. Gosh, and Sarah and Kirotika coming out from the East Coast, you must be still adjusting a little bit to the West Coast time zone there, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm ready to crash at any point right now. Yeah.
So
she got up super early, and I woke up super early, so we have that going against us.
Yeah. So, what kinds of things have you seen today that are interesting happening at DockerCon?
So Docker has predominantly has been doing the women in Docker for the last few years, and I've been finding that extremely helpful.
Okay.
Being a woman, being in technology, a lot of things we take it for granted. Some of the things like trying to go over and about to not basically be left behind, if that's a good word, in the race. I don't know what the race is about, but hey, there is something going on. I feel like when you start talking about those individually in a common group and try to understand,
Did we lose? The network feels like the network's a little unstable there. Let's see. There we go.
Yeah. Back again? Okay.
Yep, we're back.
Okay.
So I think overall this is a great effort that's been going on, and I just hope to see a lot more people sitting in that one room.
Yeah.
Every year. I think that number is growing, and I feel like it could grow a lot more.
it was great. One of the things that I think I liked the most about the event this afternoon was the interaction that we had. So they broke us up into groups of 4, and there were lots of different women in the room, and we talked about things like, we talked about ways that we could. We talked about our experiences in technology and what it's like to be a woman in technology, but there was a lot of camaraderie. There was a lot of really good interaction. I thought Dee Dee and I were in a group with 2 young women who were, everybody here is so smart and so driven, and it was just great to hear different experiences at very different. We're all in different stages of our career, and then afterwards they recommended that we put together plans for how do we support one another moving forward. And I thought it was a really inclusive activity that I'm looking forward to moving forward with.
There's definitely something to be said for growing the inclusivity here in technology. We see a lot of that happening on Twitch, where it doesn't matter the color of your skin, your gender, your faith. Let's encourage and bring everybody in. Fritz and friends. I'm saying absolutely. C# Fritz and friends. We want to make sure that everybody has a chance to have a voice and really make everything available so that folks can learn, folks can participate. I love hearing that at an in-person event as well. It's great stuff.
Right. Yeah. Not to interrupt, Jeff, but we actually had a Twitter. We had
the first question went out.
Yep.
And Skull Crusher for Life already got it.
Already got it. So I'm going to put it up just so folks know the context there. Who was the first female to earn a PhD in computer science in the United States? That already went out on Twitter, and the answer was...
The answer was Sister Mary Kenneth Keller. She earned her PhD from the University of Wisconsin in Madison in 1965.
The Badgers.
And her dissertation, her dissertation was on inductive interference on computer-generated patterns. But she's also credited with helping to develop the language BASIC.
So, okay.
The pioneer. Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah. So you guys will notice Dee Dee's sending out trivia on Twitter, as well as it'll appear down here, I believe, Jeff, on the lower thirds. But all of our questions tonight are themed with women in technology, as you might expect, given where we are and what we're doing here tonight. Absolutely.
All right. So now, we've talked just a little bit about women in technology and being inclusive. So, Karutika, as a professional as a professional cricket player, what are some of your challenges then of working in technology and kind of balancing that with being a professional athlete?
Oh, and also a mother.
And oh my gosh, and a mother too.
Right. I think that it wouldn't be fair if I don't say this. I think there's been a huge support. Starting right out from my family, my husband, my kids. Being a mother, it's difficult to kind of identify what you want to do.
Nope.
Pretty supportive people around the organization that are like, yes, go at it. We are here to support you. I think that's a huge benefit that I have gotten. And also, I feel like once you start proving yourself, I don't know what, but sort of establishing yourself in the industry of technology, when people know that you get the job done, it gets a lot more easier to do what you want to do, right? It's give and take, right?
Yeah.
So that way it's been super helpful. And in terms of trying to balance it all together, it's never been easy, right?
Yeah.
But I believe in being organized, and time management is a key. And definitely, I think after I became a mom, that has taken precedence about how do you manage time. And you pick your battles. Which one do you want first, right?
Time management is something that I think a lot of us in technology struggle with, more so when you've got other commitments, other responsibilities outside of your career. My gosh, there's so much there to manage and to handle properly. I'll be the first person to admit when I spend too much time. Since I work remotely, I get guilty. I feel guilty in the evening. It's like, there was one thing I could do just a little bit more on, because I'm not sure if I've delivered as much as my colleagues in person. So then I run into this time management issue of, I'm taking time away from being with my family. so I can get stuff done for work. And that's a challenge that I have. It sounds like Sinclair Nader in the chat room has a similar problem. Yeah. And it's tricky.
Yeah.
So
That's been a key to, I think, so far, my successful tenure in technology and in sport, being a wife, being a mom, being a daughter. Everything is important.
Right. Yeah.
But definitely kudos to the family support, husband support, awesome, awesome support at work. Everything is good. Definitely the one key I would like to say everybody is learn to identify your priority. Someone was jokingly saying earlier today, there's no more a priority, there are priorities, right?
Yeah.
It's become a plural. Very recently it's become a plural, and I think as women, we identify it a lot more faster than anybody else. I mean, with due respect, right?
Oh,
I think we
certainly.
can definitely multitask. We can definitely multitask a lot more efficiently, and that's been there.
Oh, yeah. So, we got a camera thing popping up there over the video.
John. JB. John.
There we go. And there's still a little bit. There we go. Cool. So, some folks in the chat room are commenting, it's hard to make sure you're providing value to your company, but also making sure your family is getting enough of your time, says Michael Jolly. That's the struggle, right? That's the thing that's so hard to balance.
Right.
Oh, and
Just turn
it's
it off.
on.
You just turned it off.
You turned it off again.
yeah, we lost the camera.
No, it's off now.
Well, he's getting that back on. I think, Jeff, I think that struggle, I think, is
We're back.
for men and women, right? It's for everybody.
Yes.
How do we prioritize everything? And as things become more, well, things like this, right? We're reaching beyond geography, we're reaching beyond time zones.
So we're trying to make do with conference network here, friends. So that's why we're seeing a little bit of cutout every now and again with that conference network that's out there. All right, looks like we're back.
Okay. Yep. So sorry about that.
No worries. So, Karutika, what programming languages, what technologies are you currently working with?
Primarily Java, and I'm a big Docker fan, you could say. I started using Docker since the time they were in open source.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, all about Java, using Docker, deploying in cloud.
Okay. So
That's
I don't want to show any preference towards one company's cloud or another or anything here, but
I'm not seeing it.
So, I mean, is this something where you've grown beyond just containers into things like Kubernetes or Docker Compose? I mean, where is it you're seeing the technology grow to in your space?
We are moving towards Kubernetes now.
Okay.
We're slowly, like last week, we tried to do some POCs around that. So I work as a principal architect around all our software products across the testing domains. So we've been trying to do some prototyping on, how do we evolve Docker grade, right? That's like the next phase of your container technology. So that's around that.
Right, this step up from there, so that you start scaling, you start managing load across many containers. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Just as somebody who's been around the technology for a couple decades, like I have, I remember the days when it was, when I need another machine, I had to call somebody in acquisition who's going to go out and order a machine. It'll be delivered by the weekend. Over the weekend, guess what, Jeff? You're going to be here for the entire weekend, configuring the server, getting it on the rack, getting everything. Maybe a week later, we've got it running. My gosh, and I feel like the kids these days with the containers. My gosh, it's a slider. Yes, give me 2, please. I'd like 4. And yeah,
Hey,
so much easier to manage.
You didn't have Amazon Prime back then, did you?
No.
There you go.
Didn't.
Answer your question.
We would call IBM on the phone or call Dell on the phone and say, "Can you ship us 2 more servers?"
Right.
So, yeah. Let's see. I'm just keeping an eye on the chat room. Ancient Coder says, setting priorities and sticking to it is key to work and family life balance. Amen. Absolutely. There's definitely something to that balance. Now, I also
things offered to learn C# if or to learn Java if she'd like to learn C#. I think it's a coding challenge.
We need a heavier negotiation on that.
Yeah.
Barning on the Rubble asks me, how can I have been around technology if I'm only 21? Oh, thank you. That's right. I'm only 21. Hide the gray in my beard. Hide the gray.
Yeah. Thanks for making us realize the generation we're here. Right?
Oh, my goodness. Well, this is great. And so when you did have those sessions earlier today as part of the event, what did you find were good ways that you could encourage and support other female engineers, other folks in the industry?
Sure. I think one question that kept coming up was about mentoring. One thing I would like to say is you don't pick a mentor, right? Or a mentor doesn't pick you. And personally, the way it has worked for me is I have always looked up to somebody that, helps me in some way or helps me visualize what I would like to do, right? And then you build a rapport, right? And in this age of social media, it's so much more easier to connect and identify what you relate to more and then try to have a conversation, right? Build that trust. You can't have a mentor just like that, out of a box, right? Just because somebody wants to do that. That's a key part. I would definitely say for, the new people in technology, there's been a huge craving for having a mentor. That's what I understood from the conversations this morning. So the only thing I have to say is you identify what you want out of your mentor, right? And then you make it happen. It shouldn't be the other way around because you are defining your career or your life, not someone else.
There's definitely something to be said about a mentor is more than just a teacher that you would have at school or at university, where you enrolled in the class and you just happen to run into the person who's standing at the front of the room. A mentor really is somebody who's invested in you as a person, not just in teaching you, well, here's what's on the syllabus for this 6 months, for this semester.
Right.
And I think that, and like you're saying, Karutika, it's a two-way street. You need to be also invested and build that relationship with the mentor.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't have a trust or a rapport built, I don't see that as a value add to yourself. That's my take on it. Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the other thing that was very interesting that came out of a lot of those conversations was, and again, I don't think this one's gender specific, but I think it's just career and growth in general. But the idea that, a lot of the conversations in the first session was about imposter syndrome, right?
Yes.
And a lot of people certainly suffer from that at some point or other in their career. And one of the things we talked about was that fear of asking questions and looking dumb or asking the wrong question or saying something, and talking about how, it's okay to, and finding your group of people, your posse, for lack of a better
your
term.
Tribe.
Your tribe. Absolutely, that you can have, start building up that confidence to say, hey, it's okay to ask a dumb question because
absolutely.
There's probably a lot of people who want to ask the same question. So trying not to be, don't be afraid to look like you don't have all the answers, because guess what? We don't have all the answers.
There's only one person that has all the answers, and it's Google. And they've got a search box. So I'll ask them.
Yep. Right. And the one last thing I want to mention is use the common sense.
Clippy. Sorry. Somebody said Clippy would have all the answers as well.
Oh, okay, sure. So what I was trying to say was use the common sense, right? It looks like that's become too uncommon right now.
Yep.
And then there are a lot of people that are asking questions like, I have an idea. How do I walk into a room, of people with probably an executive level leadership team or something like that? The way I have done it so far, and it's worked out well, is, hey, talk with data point and use your common sense. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. It's as simple as that, which is really not that difficult if you look at it.
Executive level folks, C-suite level folks, CEO, CIO, CTO, those folks, they're just trying to get a job done as well. It's just they have a lot more influence over the company. And if you don't personally know them, well, you're right. Bring data, sell your whatever position it is that you're trying to present, because they might not know who you are. Yeah. Be confident then in what you're presenting.
Right. If you
Good
have your
advice.
data points, just have your data point, common sense, you got your confidence right there, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Barney of the Rubble has one final point about the mentoring. You can't choose a mentor with the aim of getting a promotion. I think that's a
I think that's a great point.
Very good advice.
I think that's a great point.
Yep.
very cool.
Wonderful. Well, I think we might be up for some more trivia, and we
right.
have other people to talk to. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for joining us.
You'd like to.
In fact,
All right, pleasure is mine. Thank you very much.
I think I hear the chat room is. There's some applause from the chat room. Listen to that. They're so happy to hear you. Take care.
Great. Didier, do we have a
do.
trivia question teed up already?
Yeah, we do. Hang on, let me just take a picture
Okay.
so that we make sure we.
Sounds good. So I think the next question,
And then
our next question,
Is ready to go?
I think it's ready to go.
Yep. Yeah. It's the which woman developed the algorithm.
Ah, okay.
Okay, come over.
There it is, right there below. Which woman developed the algorithm for the spanning tree protocol? If you know the answer to the question, be the first to drop it in the Twitch chat room. And what's the prize for this one?
Oh, hold on. We're getting some selfies. Hold on.
All right. Good
Okay.
Sinclair Nader is.
Yes. Sinclair Nader actually is correct. Rita Perlman, she developed the algorithm for the spanning tree protocol, and it's fundamental to the operation of network bridges. So sometimes she's been, although she doesn't like it, she has been credited with creation of the internet. She doesn't agree with that, but but there you go. That's what you have there. So
Very cool.
Right.
All right.
So Betty Junod.
Hi,
Hello. Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you.
So, can you give us a quick introduction, who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, so I'm based out of San Francisco.
Okay.
Betty Janot, I run.
Oh, there went the network. It's like on cue.
Into technical
Network errors.
There we go.
Oh.
It's coming back.
Are we back? Yes. Okay.
There we go. You cut off. We cut off just after you said you're from San Francisco.
Yes. And
But wait, there's more.
yes, but wait, there's more. So I head up marketing for a company called Solo.io.
Okay.
We're an early stage startup. We're in the cloud native space, doing things like function level gateways, service mesh orchestration, and then doing tools on top of application service mesh.
Oh, very cool stuff.
Yeah, so people building kind of modern microservices apps, it's tooling to help them.
Great.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So, what have you taken away from the event so far today? What are some of the things that have landed well with you?
So, one of the big things of coming in today was the Women's Summit. It's kind of a half-day event, and last year for the Women's Summit, I worked at Docker and I helped put that on, and it was really just one panel and a happy hour. And it was kind of like, let's get something going for the women that attend the conference. This year, in partnering with the team, they were able to expand it out to a half day, include a workshop, and then 2 different panels, and then have the networking. And it's really cool to see it something like that expand and building community. And I know that they expanded the invites out to just anybody locally that could come, so separate from the conference. So that's really cool to see. I just left the networking social and having people come up and say like, hey, the panel was really great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I moderated a panel on investing in for a more inclusive future. So I had 3 panelists that were all in venture capital, but with mission-driven investments. So
okay.
Yeah, so one is Backstage Capital, and they only invest in women, people of color, underrepresented groups. And another one was X Factor. And so having them talk about like the deal flow changes they're seeing. So just the sheer change in the kind of entrepreneurs coming up,
Right.
and the fact that it's spanning so many different industries and types of products.
Right.
That's kind of it's nice to see. So like you see 10, 15.
I thought it was interesting to hear them talk about things like one of them, I can't remember who had said it, but they said that they felt like they optimistic. They talked, like we just talked about earlier, about they fail as often as they succeed with their investments, and that you have to. That's the risk you take. But it was very interesting and to hear even about how the different ways that they invest. One said, I'm very gut based. The other said I'm very data driven. And both were equally successful.
And lessons that they were kind of sharing from their own experience, I think it doesn't only hold to like being an investor,
right.
But it's like knowing that when you go into a new project. So you're at work, right?
Yep.
And you got a new project and you got to build your plan or you got to start working on it. You use you make your best judgment based on start running with it. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But the key I think that came up was it's okay.
Right.
It's okay that sometimes certain things don't work.
Right.
Certain features don't work, certain ideas don't work. And I think one of the women talked about how she has said, like, I make mistakes and fail all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Consequences. She's like, what we learned from that
Yep.
for the next time was actually more valuable.
Right.
I mean, those things are just good life lessons too,
Right.
but it's also nice to hear from other, from folks who are accomplished to tell
Right.
you know what, I goofed that up and it was fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. For sure.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about the fear of failure and not being afraid to fail or fail quickly. Identify what it is that is going to be your big challenge and either surpass it or fail quickly and decide to go in a different direction.
Totally. I mean, we see that play out in actually how people, with software, right? If you can ship a feature faster, you see it, you do the test and you're like, oh, it didn't work, let's take it back, or it did work, let's keep pushing.
Yeah.
And then your user's like, actually, I hate it.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, let me fix that for you. But not lingering and just being okay with that it didn't work, and then, go back to what the kernel of the idea was and see if you can make it better.
Yep.
So do you see practices like continuous integration and continuous deployment kind of being adopted and encouraged in some of those startups so that they can identify that fail fast scenario?
Yeah, I think what we've done kind of from the software engineering side, in some senses, I think we can adopt those as more of a model to think, right? Mm-hmm. And apply that in other areas. It's interesting because I'm in marketing and there's some things that can change a lot and very frequently. And there's some things like how you execute certain things, like which programs to do. Those things you can change on a dime. Mm-hmm. There's some things I think that you need to be you need to think about what you're doing and say, what is the cycle of time I actually need to wait to see if that works? Right.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing a big messaging push, you can't change that a week later.
Right.
Because it takes some time for it to actually get in.
Absolutely.
And for people to read it and marinate in it.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
So I think, but being okay that like, actually that didn't land well.
Right.
Let's change it.
Right.
I think that's a big, there's no fault or shame in that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So do you see a bit of A/B testing in your practice to determine, what fails, what succeeds, and then be able to choose an appropriate marketing campaign instead?
Yeah, I think it's so one of the things we do is like I get iterative feedback is something I do, and then also before you go into the A/B test experiment, I think sometimes what people do is say I have option A and B, and I'm going to drive 50% of traffic to each one. Right. But what are you looking for?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So like thinking about the what you're testing for. Right. So so that what's going to be the thing that's going to make you make your decision.
Yeah. Exactly.
Figure that out
Metrics.
before you do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. I'm just keeping an eye on the chat room here. How do you know someone is a company executive at a conference? Their laptop has no stickers. I don't know. I think that's Sarah's laptop that we see there. Yeah.
Mine has the stickers. Dee Dee's has stickers. This is John's. So
Okay. Now to the chat room and ladies.
This is not my laptop. I have stickers on my laptop.
I actually put the stickers on the wrist rest of my laptop. I figured out that when I put them on the outside of the laptop, I don't see the stickers then, but I want to see the stickers. So I put them on the wrist rest.
It's really for.
right.
Exactly. So I've got like stickers. On my old laptop, I had stickers of my kids that I would put there so that when I would look down at my keys, I could see my kids.
Oh, that's
No,
nice.
that's awesome.
That's adorable.
Yeah. See that? I'm a nice dad. What can I tell you?
Yes.
So,
Oh, you've got
Dee Dee has
Dee
them on-
Dee's
yeah.
got them on.
there you go. See that? I'm not the
running
only one.
real
thinking-
estate on that
I know.
laptop is what's
I know.
happening. Are there any on the bottom?
No, time for
They'll
a new
burn
laptop.
off. So, let me ask you. I mean, you mentioned going through and talking about mesh and how the container technologies are growing. What do you then see as the next wave of technologies that some of the beginner developers, intermediate developers in our chat room should really keep an eye on or invest their learning time with?
Well, I think there's a lot of stuff happening in the ecosystem. And so if you think, Docker's been around for 6 years, right? And so containers are 6 years old. I think adoption is, you'll start to, having just come from working at Docker, there's a lot of enterprises that are adopting it. When you have that abstraction layer added in, so that developers out there, you start packaging your code differently, right? And you can start doing your life cycle different. Once you do that, now you have to start thinking about what's the tooling, because all the tooling that was there that you have been working with were not built for this kind of distributed, abstracted environment. They're made for much more static environments. So I think we'll start to see a lot more in the tooling. I mean, on the DevOps side, there's a lot there, but like the tooling within how do you manipulate the applications more, as well as within what like Solo's doing, service mesh is now further abstracting the networking stack, right?
Yeah.
So you have your straight up, like you have your routers and switches, and then you have software, what is it, SDN? Software defined network, which is still very infrastructure based. Now what service mesh is doing is abstracting the application networking, like what service can talk to what, at what and how much, separate from the application logic. Now when you do that and you have like the sidecar application infrastructure, what do you do with that now that that's there? So I think that's an area and opportunity that our founder has a pretty amazing vision around. On now you need there's new tools that you can do and other interesting things that you now need to do with like all these layers of abstraction. And each layer of each layer in that stack needs its own set of tools. Right? Yeah.
It's interesting as we grow and we with microservices we componentize and we abstract and place things into different silos so that we can abstract further away from I don't care what machines I'm running on. I don't care what network I'm running on. Here's my software-defined network. It really becomes more of, software's eating the world type of scenario, And now we have tools to manage the tools that are doing these things, and it's definitely moving quickly, And I continue to be impressed by how folks are approaching this and improving the ecosystem.
Totally.
Each year, it feels like massive steps forward in this space. Really great stuff. I'm keeping an eye on the. I'm just flipping over to the chat room. Molly Codes is asking, can someone explain Kubernetes like I'm 5? So let me see if I can start and you can jump in. So Kubernetes is an orchestrator platform for containers that allows you to define a collection of container images and how you want them to be managed, as well as when they see a certain amount of workload to scale up and scale down appropriately. And there's all kinds of tools around that can be run from the command line, that can be run from the orchestrator to trigger and enable this creation and management of the containers. Do I sound good so far? Do I sound like I know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so it's like, Kubernetes being an orchestrator, and I think sometimes we say orchestrator and also like maybe those not new to the cloud native space are like, what is that? But it's a way to kind of like automate what it is your application does. So a container being the thing that you put your code in. So before you'd have like, your code base is one thing. Now your code base is like hundreds of little things. Those are all containers. Now you need to say like, I need some number of these. They're going to be made from this, and they need to be when it's running deployed. I need to make sure that these 5 containers are never sitting on the same server as these containers. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff you define. Kubernetes as an orchestrator, what it's doing is like your little map of what you listed. It makes sure that it just automates how that stuff is running in that way that you've defined at all times.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's your automagic button.
Absolutely. And the comparison that I like to draw with containers is when we were building desktop-based applications, you would build an installer application that somebody had to run, and it would put the applications down in different folders in a start menu or in your launcher on Mac, and you had to go and find it and launch it. Well, that's the container image is like that. It's your application package so that it'll run in a pseudo server space. Yeah.
Yep.
It's impressive stuff. It really is. We just got 12 raters from Chief CLL. Thanks so much for joining us, to the 12 folks over there. We're here live from DockerCon 2019 at the Women in Technology event. We're having a code party. We've had a couple trivia questions, and we're talking about containers.
It might actually be time to do another trivia question. What do you say,
All right,
Dee?
let's do it.
Let's do
All right,
it.
we've got one more question. This is question number 3.
Question number 3.
What's it? You
Yeah.
Oh, there goes the
Joining
number.
us, Betty. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks so much for joining us.
We'll see.
Here's the next question. Who designed the onboard flight software for NASA's Apollo program? First answer in the chat room will win. Let me go look at the list here. Will win a Starbucks gift card. The best of the best, says Hugo. That was a thing from, what was it? From Men in Black? The best of the best of the best? Yeah. I'm going to allow that from
Margaret
Molly.
Hamilton is the
Margaret
correct.
Hamilton, says Hugo. Ancient Coder had it first.
Yep.
There we go.
Ancient
Yes.
Ancient Coder, absolutely.
All
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
She's also credited for coining the term software engineering, for what it's worth.
I like it.
Yep.
Coining the term software engineering. There's definitely, okay. I've heard some folks say that in Europe particularly, there's a little bit of a question around using the term engineering around software, and that it carries a connotation that official bodies don't want to recognize. I think that's what I've heard folks say. Yeah. I don't know. That strikes me as kind of strange. Ancient Coder is from across the pond. I think a couple folks are that I see there in the chat room. And I think, yes, Margaret Hamilton was given a building in her name at NASA.
Yep.
So, very cool stuff. And same thing in Canada because of the engineer title. Yeah. Ancient Coder is in UK. All right.
Yep.
Very cool stuff. So, my gosh, we've been doing these code parties for a while. And it's always a lot of fun. It's always kind of tricky how we're going to set them up because we'll do them from different remote locations. We'll get folks connected. We'll have different hosts join us. And there's always just this party, this line of folks, guests that are joining us. And the trivia questions are always crazy. Who writes the trivia questions? I don't even know who writes them. Look at that. Dee Dee's guilty.
We come up with them together. Yes.
Okay.
So it depends on who has the time before the event. So one of us, we do a lot of tag teaming.
Yeah, the VS launch I did.
Yep.
And
I did these
this
ones.
One, yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyway, it was cool to be able to do the women theme this time, and actually just to get to. It was funny because so rarely do you see a room full of women
Right.
at a tech thing. At anything technology focused. We always joke that the shortest line in the world is the women's bathroom at the tech conference.
That wasn't the case today.
I know. So there was actually even multiple stalls being used. So it's kind of fun to. And the first speaker, which I did not catch her name.
Francine was her first name, and I don't remember her last name. But
it was really interesting because what really came away. More than anything for me was that the issues for women are not really different than for anyone.
Anyone, yeah.
in fact, we one of the things that I've learned over my career, which I think is just solid gold, is your network.
Yep.
Your network and your posse is critical. You, Jeff, you and I, run things past each other all the time, and Sarah and I are always calling each other. And like, without your posse and your support, I don't know how you make it.
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
the key to success for all of us. And so that's been so. And of course, that's true whether you're male, female, whoever you are,
right.
However you identify, that is solid gold. So
I don't know if you're comfortable sharing, but Dee Dee shared a story today when we were talking about where
when I started at Microsoft, I was working on a new product that wasn't very good. We had our Bill Gates, that was back when you had your Bill Gates review, and I was working on I was the only female on an all-male team, shock, and I had a bunch of questions because the product wasn't very good, and I had a bunch of questions, but I felt like they were stupid, and so I didn't ask them. And so we go to our Bill Gates review, and he asked every stupid question that I was too afraid to ask.
Oop, there goes. All right. Come on, network. You can hang in there. There it is. We're back.
Oh.
There's
where did we lose you?
So you mentioned that Bill Gates had asked all kinds of the minutia questions that
right.
you wanted to ask. But here's the CEO of the company, right? I mean, the guy, and he knew.
Not afraid to ask the stupid question.
Yeah. There's definitely something to be said about having. I don't even want to just limit it to Bill, but to having executive leadership that appreciates the minutia around engineering, those little things is.
Yep.
It's a way to win favor with technology folks.
Yep.
Well, and I think that's
yeah, Hugo, you're right. They appreciate the importance of that minutia. Let's see if we can get Skype back. There it is.
Yeah.
Do we want to give away another prize?
Yeah, we can give away another prize, and then I'd love to have that conversation about getting your 7-year-old daughter into
STEM. So this is
field. Yeah, but let's do a trivia question, and number 4, and then
this is number 4. The question is, name the woman who co-founded Cisco Systems in 1984. First person to answer it will get a Starbucks gift card. So, and there's something about just any leadership that when they pay attention to the technical folks, we just want a little bit of attention, right?
Right.
If they're able to engage, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Sinclair Nader is pointing out that the stream drops when Bill Gates is referenced. That's not a thing.
But Barney of the Rubble actually answered the question correctly. It was Sandy Lerner.
Sandy Lerner. Okay.
All right.
She co-founded the company with her then partner and now former husband, Leonard Bozak. So they were both working at Stanford University.
So it wasn't Ms. Cisco. Her name wasn't Cisco.
It was not Cisco, no.
All right. I'll remember that. Wasn't that. Okay. Well done, Barney. Please give it to someone in need, says Barney.
We can, if you would like us to do that, we absolutely can. I'm sure we can find people here in San Francisco who could use
a little bit of Starbucks.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. So the question that we had from Hugo, and that I think it's a good topic to come back around to. Hugo says, I have a 7-year-old daughter, and I'd like to encourage to explore STEM fields. How do you go about doing that? What are some of the things we should do to encourage?
Can I make a plug for something?
Yeah,
sure.
You can do that. And I'll talk about my experience as well. So go for it.
So I work I'm on the board of directors for First Washington. So if you're involved in First and know what that is, it's actually robots for all age groups.
Awesome.
So First Lego League is her age group, and that's where you learn to build robots, and you actually end up doing all facets of STEM, which is the hardware, putting together the actual robot, and then the software. You have to program it too. So it's a great fun way to do STEM. And what's great about First is that it's all about teamwork and mentors.
Yep.
And so it's a great organization. I would really recommend you to get involved with the First organization in your area. It's founded by Dean Kamen, so they're in every state across the union.
Do we have a link for them?
I will. Let me find it. I have First Washington, I think that First. Oh no! Wait, sorry. First.
And while she's looking for that, I can say,
I'm gonna say it's first.org. Yeah. No, that's not right.
Firstwa.org is the one
in Washington. Yeah.
Barney is pointing out firstinspires.org.
That would make sense.
Yep, that's it. There we go. Thank you, Barney, for grabbing that link.
Michael Jolie, that's a great idea. The heroine of JavaScript cards are fantastic. I can also tell you, as a mom of a 12-year-old daughter, we just kind of have exposed her to as many things as we can. And my husband's an aerospace engineer at NASA, so she's had some great exposure there. And actually, when she was tiny, favorite story, she was building something on the floor with these bristle blocks, and she says to me, she's like, I think I want to design airplanes and rockets like Daddy when I grow up. I said, that's great. And she looks at me quietly. She goes, I have no idea what you do. and since then, I've brought her. She's actually, since I try every year to bring her to a conference that's child friendly.
Yeah.
Kevin Griffin, who was on here earlier, I don't know if he still is. We live in the same area. NASA puts on a maker fair that he's brought his boys to. I've run into him there with my daughter. Actually, at the Revolution Conf, which is a conference that he runs, last year I brought her. She helped me work the booth, but there was a kid who was actually he was leading a session on Scratch development, and he had some questions, and I said, go talk to him. I said, I guarantee you he'll walk you through it. So they sat together. They were both, 11 years old. They sat together for about an hour and a half, and she learned how to program, and she really, so I think it's showing them the excitement. I know for her, it was hard because of the things that I do are far less tangible than what my husband does. So she could see, oh yeah, Dad designed that, Dad created that. But with some of the coding, she could actually see the end result, and I know that was really exciting for her and empowering. So I think having that, giving that opportunity is really, and that exposure really helps.
It's funny. My daughters, I have two daughters. They're, I know this, 15, and the other one will be 13 the week of build. My younger daughter was in technology class, first computer technology class at school, and they were asking, well, what do your parents do? So she went on Google and searched for me. It was like, here's what Dad does, because I don't really know how to explain it. This is what Google says Jeff does. And they're like, wow, oh my gosh. And of course, one of the first things that pops up is Twitch. How you doing out there? So my kids are like, yeah, Dad does Twitch for a living. I'm like, it's a little bit more than that. My gosh. There was another question. There was another question that came in from Molly Codes. I think this is a good one. And actually, we should go to another trivia question here, shouldn't we? We've got one or two more.
Absolutely. Yep.
So,
yeah, and maybe because we're running out of time, why don't we do, we could just do the final one that's worth the most.
Yep.
Jump right to question 7?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So question number 7, this is the last question. Which woman was the co-founder of Sierra Online? Sierra Online. Oh my gosh, Sierra, that was like...
Yeah,
that was time ago. Right, that was King's Quest and...
King's Quest, exactly.
Oh my gosh, I think Electric Havoc is...
Yep. Electric Havoc has the answer correct. She actually, Roberta Williams founded the company with her husband Ken, and she actually was responsible for much of the King's Quest series.
Congratulations, Electric Havoc! It's a $100 Amazon gift card. Yep. Do I have that right?
You do have that right. Yep.
Oh my gosh! Well done. You'll get a message here from Dee Dee in just a second. Latte Mote says, my dad has blue hair and talks to Ninja. No, that's not how this works. I wanted to dye my hair blue, but I just dye my beard funny colors. That's what I do. So, fun fact, behind the scenes here, right? You know, we did the purple beard for the Visual Studio launch. Dee Dee bought the purple dye for that. She's like, oh, I'll take care of it. Let me run out and pick that up for you. I know exactly where to go. And I'm like, okay. And the next morning, I'm in
my hometown.
Yeah, the next morning, I'm in the men's room holding up paper towels and spraying purple in my beard. Oh my goodness!
Yeah. It was at Ulta.
Yeah.
That's where we.
There was another question here. I want to make sure we touch on. Molly Codes asks, "Can you speak to a moment when you felt truly in love with software? The wow, I can't believe I can get it to do this moment."
Oh wow, there's so many.
Dee Dee, you've contributed so much to the industry. There's got to be a couple things where it's like, that was really cool that we were able to get this.
Well, you know, I mean, so I'm going to date myself, but you know, it's always when you were young that it had the most impact. Right. I feel like, because like that's when you learn. And I started back in the 80s when I worked for a shareware company, and you know, computers were hard to use then. PCs were really, you know, it was command line, and it wasn't easy, and a lot of the coding was assembly language, and we had a little program called PC File, and we enabled, you know, millions of people, and this is, well, thousands, because not that millions of people didn't have PCs back then, but people to you know, use their PCs in meaningful ways. Like they were able to, you know, we had people who could do, you know, put things in databases that before they were having to do in paper, and watching all of our customers do that, it was like, whoa, this is cool. I mean, like you really were having an impact on the world, which it's hard to do in many other vocations, but it's something that's really achievable in software, to have an impact on the world.
And I would say I have two similar. One impact on the world, the other was just an impact on me, but the impact on the world was one of the first things I worked on prior to coming to software was I was more on the network side, and I was doing a lot of work with Quest Communications, and I remember coming home from work one day, and I could not, I mean, I was just beside myself, and I said to Scott, to my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, we were launching, we were actually getting ready to roll out Quest's all optical network, and I was talking about a mile a minute, and I'm like, you could transmit the entire Library of Congress from San Francisco to Washington, D.C. in, you know, whatever seconds, with only 2 regeneration points, and I was going on, and he looks at me, and now again, this is a man who's an aerospace engineer, he's like, slow down, little fella, you're not, not talking about language. That was like, and again, not software development necessarily, but still within the space.
It's crazy.
It is, and it was just one of those where like, wow, I have, even if just a small part of this, it's such an exciting thing. But then for me, just my personal software moment was a summer camp that I did. I don't even remember how old I was, and I actually learned to program in Turtle, and it was very, very exciting.
Oh my gosh, yes. When I was 5, 6, 7 years old, my father bought a Commodore 64 for the family, and it came with Monopoly on a 5 1/4 floppy drive. It was all text based, but it was all written in BASIC, and I figured out how to look in the source code and change the names of the properties.
Whoa.
So it was so cool. I made Boardwalk like our home address. It was like, Dad, look what I did. I landed on home, and you owe me $200 now. And that was like my first aha moment. But I'm going to point back. I think, you know what? I think Skull Crusher makes the really good point here. It's one thing to see that little thing and you go, oh my gosh, look what I can do. But Skull Crusher says watching someone use your software that you've never met is awesome, no matter how small that program is. I'll go just a little step further. When someone uses that software that you wrote or that technology you built, and their eyes light up like, oh my gosh, you just saved me 10 minutes, an hour, a day. Unreal. That kind of hooks me.
Yeah, I was on the Visual Basic 1.0 team, and before VB 1.0, think of what programming was like for Windows, and suddenly everybody could do it. It was so exciting. I know that we all joke about VB now, but at the time it was crazy what people were doing.
But you know what? VB really has a good place. It's stable. It's been around for a long time. You're not going to see a lot of changes to it, right? Yeah. Folks are comfortable with it, and you're not going to, as a language, you've got all those great primitives and objects that you can use, and you don't have to get wrapped up in the latest things that are happening in C#, where C# is trying to accommodate everybody and everything.
Right. Yeah.
So, Barney's right. VB is a lot more powerful than people let on.
Yeah. Visual Basic for DOS. Wow, that was a blast from the past.
Oh yeah. And Latte, I can't imagine stapling floppies to the ceiling. Oh my gosh. Oh, that had to be terrible. VB brilliant as a dev platform. VB3 and VB4 with IntelliSense, VB5 solid, and VB6. It does still run some enterprises, even though it's deprecated. It's marked.
It's out of
It's out of support.
I mean, we had customers who were running like nuclear power plants and airlines, and we had all kinds of apps that ran that VB was written in.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, this has been great. I think we're right at the end of our time together.
Yeah,
here.
we're good to go. Thank you. Thanks
so much.
Everybody.
Yeah,
thank you so much. And you know what? I think can we keep a little bit of this going? Can we keep a little bit of the positive vibes going and set up a raid here?
Yeah.
So
let's do it.
Our friend Fierce Kittens, she's another programmer, and she's out there starting her St. Jude fundraiser, and I think that's a pretty important organization, helping a research hospital that's going to help kids. Help kids that are fighting some pretty nasty diseases. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a raid to head over there to our friend Fierce Kittens, and we can bring some of that positivity, some of that fun over there to her channel. Thanks so much, Dee Dee and Sarah. This was great, and we're going to do this again in 6 days.
I was going to say, we're actually going to do this a lot coming up here.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be back.
Yep.
We're going to have a lot of fun. One more of these coming up at Build. And are we
and then we'll be doing all the live streaming at Build.
Oh yeah.
Yep, and
we've got
we end up doing some prizes throughout the week.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll see some cool stuff happen.
Yep,
oh my gosh, yes. Congratulations, Electric Havoc. Yes, you're welcome for the prize, and Skull Crusher, you as well. This was great. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. And get ready to go see our friend over there, our friend Fierce Kittens. We're gonna have a little bit of fun with her. She's just getting started. And say hello. Let her know you came from over here. And thanks so much. I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern for some more live coding. But we'll see you for another code party on Sunday. All right? Take care, everybody.
Cool.
We'll see you later. Bye.
All right.